What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. It is nice to have you here today. Hey, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button if you would. I would love to have you here on a regular basis. I review knives, or at least overview knives, 2, 3, sometimes more times a week. Been doing it for a little over 3 years now. I really love knives. I'm a knife collector. And I'd love to have you here on a regular basis to sort of share everything from budget stuff to non-budget stuff and sort of everything in between. So why don't you come along for the ride? Today, we are talking about a Sitivien. Now, Sitivien is a budget brand, mostly found on Amazon. They have shown up in the last year and a half or so. They make a slew of really interesting knives. Recently on the channel, we took a look at this. This is the ST133, and I really like this thing. They mostly run D2, although they do have some higher end stuff. And they do some Damascus, which I would avoid, and they do some other stuff. But to me, their magic is in this, their budget stuff. And this thing is 30 bucks. And it's a lot of knife for 30 bucks. This is the ST131. It is D2. It's got a marvelous blade shape. Look at that. It's a little funky. It's got this sort of fuller with holes in it. Whatever. The blade shape itself is phenomenal, right? This has been an absolute joy to keep around and cut and carry. And I would like to point out that the steel liners are crowned beautifully. Everything on this knife is smooth. There's not a sharp edge on it, even the clip, except right where you want it. And it came very sharp. Now, so far, my experience with Sitivien and their D2 is that it holds a wicked edge for a very long time, which means they're doing something right. That wasn't always the case, particularly with inexpensive knives that said D2 on Amazon. And there are still some manufacturers out there that are cheating. But my experience with Sitivien has not been that. So let's take a look at what you get on the ST131. First and foremost, you get almost 3.5 inches of cutting on a little over 3.5 inches of D2. This is a full-size knife. The grip area from behind that choil is a full 4 inches, and the knife is from end to end almost 8 1/4. This is, as I said, a full-size pocket knife. It's a liner lock, as you can see, and we're locked up at about 25%, but we're locked up very tight. No this came out of the box, no rock, no wiggle, no nothing. I have had occasionally to tighten the pivot on a couple of Sitiviens, but very rarely, and this is not one of those. The steel liners are milled on the inside. There's holes punched in them to do a little bit of weight reduction, but this is still a hefty beast. It's got a G10 backspacer and a stamped steel deep carry pocket clip, as you can see. Now, it doesn't have flush mounted screws, and it is not ambidextrous. This is just right hand, tip up. The clip itself is, where did I do it? There it is. I've been using the same envelope for a while now. Might as well keep going. So you get about that much knife sticking out, which is not bad. Mine came lovely and centering. This one's got some style to it. Now, this little space right here, right? What is that? Well, it's got some jimping here. You can put your thumb forward. I have learned, I was doing some, I was cutting through some material the other day, and my thumb really likes to land right there in this cutout. Now, this is the only place with a little bit of edge to it, and because everything else is fairly well chamfered. I feel like you could, with that round, strike a ferro rod really easily. Now, I'm not suggesting that you use your folders for ferro, but you could. That action, check that out. That's really good. All right. Closed length on the ST131, we're coming in at 4 and just shy of 4 3/4. And the closed profile, it's got a bit of a pocket pecker, but the closed profile still coming in at just about 1 1/4 inches, so it doesn't chew up a ton of pocket. Now there's a little bit of jimping back here on the flipper tab, but the rest of it is chamfered down. So it's a little bit of grind. But you know, you could put other stuff in your pocket with this fairly comfortably. And that's a nice touch. You can Spidey flick it on the fuller. I don't know if you can get your thumb in there. Hold on. You can, actually. The detent is pretty good. You can, if you really start and stop, you can get it to pop out. But it's a fairly heavy blade. It is running on bearings. They all are, at least as far as I know. It's got a built-in lanyard spot back here, and I don't mind these. A lanyard spot at the back of the knife, particularly when it's built in, and you go right through the backspacer, when it's built into the back of the knife, doesn't interfere where the blade goes, doesn't interfere with the pocket clip. Although they could have moved it, anyway, inexpensive designs. Again, 30 bucks. I really like this thing. Let's do some size comparisons while we're talking about it. First and foremost, we're going to go ahead and do our old friend, the PM2. I bang things around on the table. We'll line the blades up on this line. It's a little tiny bit shorter overall than the PM2, but of course you get a lot more cutting surface, which matters. I mean, this is the part of the blade that you're going to be using. It's got a lovely belly, right? It's drop point, but it's a really beautiful blade. Let's leave that where it was and grab ourselves a paramilitary 2. Para 2. Excuse me, para 3. I know what I'm doing. It's been a long day. Bear with me. Yeah, so it is considerably bigger than the para 3 here. It's just a big knife. I like that. What else can we compare it against? Well, you saw it against this earlier. Let's bring it out again. This is the Microtech SOCOM Bravo, which is one of my all-time favorite knives in the world. Here it is against something else you saw a minute ago. This is the Grant Gripper, another one of my all-time favorite knives. As you can see, the gripper is a little bit longer, but you get more cutting on the ST131. Here it is against our old friend, the Bug Out. And it is just a monster compared to the Bug Out. But I will say, if you like the cutting profile of the Bug Out, you're going to like the ST131, right? They've got a very similar belly at the front, nice long flat for draw cuts and push cuts. This is a really well-sorted cutting tool for 30 bucks. It's also nice and pokey, right? You can really give something a jab with that if you had to. The G10 is oddly milled. It's got these 3 spots on it. It's got this little rise right here, but really what that does is give it a nice grip in the hand. It looks a little silly. But this is a knife with some obvious style choices, right? You'll notice these are bigger and they get smaller as they go. These are bigger and they get smaller and they go. So they tried to at least bring that aesthetic forward onto the blade of the knife, which is a nice touch. I'm going to give them credit for it. I like this thing. I do. Let's weigh it out and see where we land. I think it's going to be hefty. Steel liners. The one thing that Sitivien does sort of regularly is they make very thick knives. All right. Yeah, 5.2 ounces for a 3 and little over 3.5 inch blade. This definitely blows the ounce per inch thing out of the water, but it's a working tool. It is stupid comfortable, and it couldn't be anything else, right? It's got this really neutral handle, just really nice. You can feel the pocket clip just a little bit. I suppose if you had really bony hands, that would probably stand out. Miss Women Carry Knives.
Yes.
Would you like to come over and see how big the ST131 is in your hand?
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, Women Carry Knives. Welcome to the channel. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
She's walking off with a knife, folks. Yeah,
Actually, that's a good size, though.
Yep, that's a full. Is it comfortable?
It's actually very comfortable.
Can you feel the pocket clip?
Yes.
Yeah, you can. But
Yes, with my bony hands.
I like it. Let's grab our magic calipers.
Magic.
Yeah, I don't know. I just started calling them that, and that's where we're stuck. It feels like it's going to be about 4 millimeters, and I was wrong. It's 3.5. I've been wrong all week. So 3.42. Hang on. Am I turning this thing? 3.37 millimeters. So not bad. The handle itself at the thickest back here is 16 millimeters, which is going to come in at, yeah, it's well over half an inch. I'll put a link to where I found this on Amazon in the description. They do come in other colors. I, of course, got the black one because that's just me. Look, I love knives. We've talked about this many times on this channel. But I also know that many people, even $50 is a lot of money for a knife. And I get that. I do. I don't ever want to pretend that I don't. And that being the case, I will continue to bring, and I always have a soft spot for stuff like this because my knife journey started at Big Five, buying cheap knives to go camping with. I'm always going to bring stuff like this to the channel because I want people to know that there are good knives, not gas station $25 knives, but for just a couple of bucks more than that, you can get a knife that is going to serve you exceptionally well for a very long time for not a lot of money, and that's just what this is. And I think that's where we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Sitivien ST131. There will be a link in the description. If you have any questions, feel free to ask down in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.